My radio came to life. A sound crackled through the speakers.
Immediate assistance needed at the park on Grand Ave. Unidentified woman found, attacked, and in critical condition.
Grand Avenue was only a couple blocks away. I turned the car's ignition on and picked up the radio while clicking the side button. Copy that. On my way now. Any information as to the nature of the attack?
That's a negative,
Was the distorted reply. I backed the car onto the road and made the short journey to Grand Avenue. Even from the distance, I could hear the wail of other first responders quickly heading over there as well. Whatever the problem was, it seemed to be big. After a few minutes, I pulled up to the scene and, with a quick flash of my badge, crossed the police tape. I made my way past the ambulances and other first responder vehicles to where a group of people, dressed in their correlating uniforms, stood huddled around a single area. A police officer looked back and seemed to recognize me, probably from the academy, and stepped back to let me take a glimpse of what was causing the commotion. I whistled through my teeth. There was a woman, lying on the floor. Well, the only way I knew it was a woman was because I was told so. The woman that laid before me was so disfigured, it was impossible to tell what she actually looked like. She was covered in thousands of toothpicks, every single one embedded deeply into her skin. Streams of blood flowed through each incision, coating her body red and covering the ground near her, and yet she was still alive. She was obviously and painfully breathing every couple of seconds. A nearby paramedic informed me that it wouldn't be the case much longer. We can't move her. It just drives the toothpicks into her skin further, which increases the problem. We can't remove them either, he said solemnly. Why not? I asked. He looked up at me, and for the first time I saw fear in his face. That's just it. We can't. The toothpicks all have a barbed spike on the tip, meaning the only direction they move is downwards, and we don't want that. We've tried to insert a catheter to induce artificial respiration, but we can't get that in. He gestured wildly towards the woman. There are toothpicks up her damn nose. I stared at the woman a while longer. I looked at her chest as she struggled to take a breath before coming back down again, pushing the toothpicks further into her skin, which increased the already alarming rate of blood flow. I looked at the paramedics who were coming to the slow realization that this person was gonna die a slow and painful death, and there was nothing they could do about it. I had seen many things in my career, but this took the cake. I used to pride myself on staying calm during any situation. I was able to stay stoic and take control of any situation, but this time was different. The brutality of the attack made my insides feel like a swirling mess, threatening to spill out of my mouth if I wasn't careful. Everything about this just seemed so wrong. The human body wasn't built to be treated like that. There was an internal instinct to run away from this, stemming from the primal fear ingrained into my brain, but I couldn't. While the situation filled me with such fear of the unknown, I had to stay. I had a job to do, after all. I turned back to the paramedic. How was she found? He sighed. Exactly like she is now. A passerby called emergency services. We've tried to help her in any way we could, but... He trod off the end of his sentence, his gaze shifting into the distance. Is there anything else I should know? I asked. He looked back at me, but not directly. His eyes appeared foggy and seemed to linger at a faraway point without really comprehending what he was looking at. Grief, I assumed. Yeah, there were a couple of items found, besides the body, he finally said. He left to go get it, and came back with a bold small piece of folded paper in his hands, and a small silver wristwatch, which he passed on to me. The watch caught my attention. It seemed familiar. Well, I suppose all silver chain link watches with 3 faces look the same, but this one seemed different, somehow. The weight and the feeling of the metal against my palm seemed to awaken a long-forgotten memory in the back of my mind. I could see myself holding this watch years ago and sliding it onto my wrist, or someone else's. I turned the watch over. 2 simple letters were engraved on the backside of the watch. 2 simple letters that made the color drain out of my face and made the world seem as if it was collapsing on top of me. 2 letters that I had put there 6 years ago. A.E. Alice Edwards, my sister. She was presumed missing over 3 years ago after she left her house to go for an evening jog and never came back, leaving behind a grieving husband and a 4-year-old daughter. The search was given up eventually. There were no leads and no witnesses. How do you begin to find someone who's vanished? With my mind clouding up with questions, I made my way back to the body. I forced myself to look past the blood and the toothpicks and the sight of mutilated flesh. I looked at the eyes, the only part of the body not completely covered in toothpicks, and collapsed into fits of tears, because in that moment I knew. The eyes were bloodshot and lifeless, but I had seen all I needed to. The woman on the ground before me was my sister. I thought she was dead, and now I had seen her die, without even knowing her true identity. I turned my gaze away from her, and from all the others. All of these events were too much to process, and I knew I had to leave this scene, or risk having a breakdown. In that moment, the pain was too great, and the tears were too strong. I nodded to the policeman guarding the tape, and crossed it once more. As I left, I became aware of the piece of folded paper in my hands, given to me by the paramedic, as it was also found near the body. I opened it up. What do you think of my little hedgehog? If you like this, don't worry. My zoo has only begun.